horse drifted alarmingly in the betting was, fenced in the morning, continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Burns.
The ground is soft. It's not.
It's heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Hello and welcome. Yes, it's Sunday sermon time. And of course, that means more chin-wagging, slander, bluster from myself, John Lang, and Lorne Malvo. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Hello, everyone.
This is it now. It's a good show, this. Not as many questions as last week, but there's plenty of talking. And, John, there's not much about racing this week, so I'm going to start the show off with two things. I'm going to say hashtag vote John Joe on SBC. If you look on our timeline, vote for John Joe and bar stewards of the old voting system, because it's the only thing that we've got any chance of coming third or fourth in, because we're not totally shit. So get your votes in, because it does mean a lot to us, and it kind of boosts us if we do beat the mainstream, the funded ones, the ridiculously funded ones by Betfair, Ladbrokes and all sorts.
Yes, the corporate shills who've sold their soul.
It pumping millions into their podcast and their shit.
The bastards.
We don't want to be totally shit. So get voting. Hashtag vote John Joe. Right, let's get the first part of the week out of the way. She's not so good news about Jonathan Neeson. And obviously lots of people have paid tribute to him in the media, etc., etc. I have to say I was quite shocked because it didn't seem so long ago since he was on the telly with the likes of Millman, etc., etc. I know how it's affected some of the racing TV people. I know this from messages I've received. So we would sincerely like to pay our condolences on behalf of Jonathan Neeson. He was a tremendous broadcaster, a lot of skin in the game, talked a lot of sense, unlike a lot of the others. So Jonathan Neeson, it was a shock to me and a shock to all bar stewards. So may you rest in peace, sir, going forwards. John, were you shocked about Neeson this week?
I was. I didn't even know he'd been ill, to be honest. I did always also enjoy him being on the telly from wherever. As you say, one of the better broadcasters. You always felt as though he was having a bit of a sideways look at the sport and a bit of a chuckle at the incompetence that surrounds it.
Very dry sense of humour, which we like. And the professionalism that we couldn't do, why we couldn't appear on mainstream, is because he kept it dry and sort of half tongue-in-cheek, where you didn't know whether he was having a dig or not. And I think that was a very skillful thing to do. So Jonathan Neeson will be missed from our screens. This week, chaps, how are we doing? Good or bad? How's our week been? What we been up to?
Well, it could have been a lot worse. Julie Harrington could have been staying in post.
Yes, this is true.
Surely giving everybody a bit of a lift.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's a typical week before a big festival. I can't buy a winner.
Yeah, that's true.
Always going to a festival, doing your bollocks in the week before.
Yeah.
No change there. Very, very typical. This is traditionally one of the toughest weekends there is to try and win any money, and I've fallen short of the task again. So
I know what you're saying. This week's not been easy for me either. You know that from personal chats, John. It just seems like every time you go big, you go home.
Yeah. The only highlight this week for me has been the Scotland Euro 24 song.
I've not heard that.
Oh, it's fantastic. Honestly, a fantastic little ditty.
I have not heard that. If some shit impresses you like that, then it must be decent.
It completely stuck in my head most of the weekend, actually.
Is it better than Tottenham's FA Cup song? Osvaldo Ardiles.
Well, as he's going to Wembley, his knees have gone all trembly. No, I don't think you could top that, could you?
When Osvaldo did his old to win the cup for Tottenham
Hotspur, yes, quite.
Spurs are on the way to Wembley, said no one ever. Never mind. It's been a strange week for me, lads, I'll be honest. Well, addictions in the old news at the moment regards gambling and stuff, innit? Everyone wants to talk about it. Rob the Ripper, which I'll come on to in a minute. It's been a strange one for me because I've kindly admitted to myself finally, probably too late, that I drink too much.
Right. Well, did you actually start counting then or something to come to this conclusion?
I started counting bank balance
Oh, right.
and Amazon orders and things like that. Anyway, so it got to a point, and I just thought this week I'm not feeling right good either. It's time to maybe change things up because I'm one of them. I enjoy a drink every night. And to be honest, it numbs my brain. After a really stressful punting day, it does numb the brain. So I thought it's time to try something different because you can't carry on like this because you might not be here much longer.
How is crystal meth then?
Meth Gator, John, that's another film I've seen. Meth Gator. It's
Yeah.
better than Cocaine Bear.
Jesus.
Right. This is getting weird. But no, this is a serious subject because I know there'll be people out there that might be even think it's the same thing. I drink too much body water. And so I just wanted to tell you my story this week. So I decided to go one in, one off. So like one night drinking, one night not. To try and slow it down a little bit. They say, don't they, if you stop completely, you're fucked. No, seriously, I didn't believe this because obviously I've no idea because I've not.
So what's tonight? Is tonight an on or an off?
No, tonight is an on. The off nights were, can I say, horrendous. The first night, all my organs went on fire.
Christ.
I didn't get to sleep till like 6 a.m. Both nights as well. I haven't drank. I didn't get to sleep till 6 a.m.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, so you know that this is like beyond probably where you should be. It's been quite enlightening. It's going to be a journey this week because obviously I'm going to cut it down slower and slower. I'm not going to stop completely because that's just totally boring. Then people say, I don't drink anymore. Well, you fucking boring, are you? You don't want any of that. But it's a case that I need to sort of slow it down considerably. And I think this is the right process to do it, but it's going to be very hard. And I've found it very hard. So it's been a weird week for me in that. So we talk about addiction. Thankfully, I think I've got a strong mindset to be able to tackle. If I believe I've got a problem, which I believe I have, I've got a strong enough mindset to deal with it. And I respect that some people haven't. However, Rob the Ripper Davis, Chris's friend,
He's ghastly, isn't he?
I don't think I've seen a more ghastly media correspondent, book writer, claims he's won awards. I don't know what for, being a complete twat. Right, so this is a guy that I think last week or 2 weeks ago tweeted about or did an article about the Euros and Britain getting happier and arsehole and how good it is for the nation, feeling happier because they can go out and have a drink, enjoy themselves. No problem with alcohol whatsoever. So I've just highlighted the problems with alcohol, right? But he won't acknowledge that. So he's done an article yesterday regarding gambling again and how distressing the game of gambling is.
well, we know.
What are we saying?
Well, I mean, it's double standards, isn't it? You can't have a bet, but you can go as pissed as you want.
Chris, what do you think?
I agree with John, really. Got nothing really to add to that. It's just the whole thing's just awful, isn't it? I mean, these people, we've said they're grifters, they're parasites, aren't they?
I mean, surely it's funding. It must be funding. You can't sit on a moral perch and say gambling is bad, real bad, and sit on another perch and then say, no, the Euros are coming. The nation can get happier again, can go out for a drink, make merry.
But no.
You only put it down to the company capes, can't you? You know, we last seen leaving the Guardian offices with Ronnie Walker and Ron Bacardi.
I just don't get it. I don't get how society has got here like in this way. It seems very strange that certain prominent writers, and obviously he would have a bigger audience than we have, even though it's the Guardian, can write shit.
Yeah, I think it is.
Like he's doing. And I can only put it down to funding because all vices are supposedly bad, whether it's smoking, vaping, gambling, drugs.
Yeah, totally. The whole thing's rubbish, isn't it?
It's taking the cash. Taking the cash. Well, we'll take the cash.
There's money there for people, isn't there? So they'll take it and they'll write whatever their paymasters pay.
Yeah. The next bad piece of business to get through this week is the elephant in the room, I feel, and it's slaughtering of racehorse. And this is one thing that I know I have been messaged about by various good people. There was a recent TV programme on RTE which showed evidence of mass slaughtering of racehorses in the abattoirs.
Yeah.
A lot of people in racing, the more prominent figures, seem to be defending it. Or not defending it, but brush over the carpet on it. I want to make some points here. By discussing this, it's not saying we're anti-racing, is it? We're not saying we're anti-horse racing because the BHA have done the thing on the whip. They've lowered the national fences over here. And by the way, I'm not singling out Ireland here with the RTE story because it's happened
Yeah.
over here with the Panorama episode with the Swindon Abattoir, where even one of the Moneer horses ended up in the Swindon Abattoir. And these are people with absolutely shedfuls of money. So what I'm saying is that why is it that so few within the game ever speak up and encourage and work towards improving this instead of just saying absolutely nothing on it? It's absolutely bizarre. John, you know yourself, right? So you go on about national fences, you go on about whips and how they've concentrated on that. But this is the elephant in the room. They're all walking around, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's the worst thing that the antis can hit racing with, really, because it's just the wanton wastage of equine life, isn't it?
More than that, how it's done. They send them to the abattoirs because it's cheap. For example, I did my research, right? Bell Equine in the UK, just a standard vet, charges £110 including VAT if you use a gun plus sedation, which is an extra 35 to 40 quid, or euthanasia, which is more humane, for £340 plus VAT. If you're the last person to own that horse, and that horse has come into the end of its life, you surely have to be financially liable to those costs. I believe. I think even as an owner, you should have to pay, like when you buy one from sales or anything, right? It's in your care, so it's in your name. £400 has to be transferred to an authority or whatever that then puts the funds to make sure that that horse, if it's the end of its life, no one wants to care for it. We know it's impractical for every single racehorse to run round a field happily at the end of its life when no one wants any part of it. So surely a humane way rather than taking them to an abattoir, because they're not used for food. That's the difference. If someone says, well, we slaughter cows, yes, that's for food. We're eating them. That's a different argument altogether. The sedation is the humane way of saying no one wants that horse, no one's going to feed it, it's going to be left to die, which is why we had cases of horses running around fields that are badly mistreated. Nick Quinn in this country, there's been Irish trainers that have done it and just let them to run rot in a field. And it's unacceptable. You can't pay 400 fucking quid. Absolute disgrace. And all this money that goes into the sport via big ownership and everything. This is something that I am very passionate about. The whistleblowers on the RTE program were industry people, but smaller industry people.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like a framing job or from like you sometimes get on these programs. No, it needed to be highlighted. It's shameful. And I found it shameful also that they named some trainers, which I won't name on the RTE program, because I reckon every trainer has done this. Every single trainer anywhere has had an
100%.
horse sent to a slaughterhouse. I just think it's just natural progression. It's how it's happened. Well, yeah, get shut. And this should be talked about. John, they talk about the whip and the Grand National enough, don't they?
Absolutely, and this is way more important.
Honestly, it beggars belief, and I really hope that racing can get a grip with this and make owners, syndicates. We're talking a 400 quid bond would be enough to put into a fund that then, at the end of that horse's life, secures that horse's least humane demise, if you like, where it's not in pain and that this and the other. I know it's not as simple as that, but that'd be my sort of direction of travel.
Yeah.
Right, which leads me on to the next question, which is Samuel the Cat, an early one. So, Jockey Club BHA. When the bar stewards people take charge of racing, by which Chris pulls a devil, Chris. Putting me in the betting at 100 to 1 is an absolute disgrace.
You should be much shorter.
Jesus Christ. Could you see it? I turn up like Greg Swift stood there with his whiteboard. If I go to the BHA, right, Mr. Keys, what are we doing today? And I say, well, you can fuck off.
Exactly. Pour me a gin.
It's a good start for me.
He's gone off for nothing. That'd be the first thing I'd do. But no, what would we do? I think we ought to be serious and not serious here, because there's two things, isn't there? Obviously, we've got Nevin that's jumped ship from the Jockey Club, and now we've got our Julie that's jumped ship from the BHA. We see the pattern here. Why are they jumping ship, John?
Because the sport has never been in a healthier position, and
there's no gravy to extract.
Growth is just around the corner, isn't it? I'm waiting for Liz Truss chucking her hat in the ring to take the top job.
Yeah. All right, before we go on to the Samuel's question, we'll talk about the two roles. So the BHA role, am I right? It offers like, is it 100 grand a year?
135, I think.
135.
Circa.
Is it about that? Is it really that?
Yeah.
Right.
The producer's nodding here saying 2 days a week work, she says.
I can probably get it done in the morning, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sinecure job. It's a stepping stone job, isn't it? It looks good on the CV. It's a very strong next move, if you like. You can say I led racing most turbulent times. I said,
You
you
can
know,
write a lot about it
yeah,
without actually doing anything,
which
can't
is
you?
what you want. I mean, she's got plenty to say. There's a lot of controversy. She kept a steady hand on the tiller and all that kind of stuff, which will guarantee her another Quango role, right? Because the metrics of success of these jobs, they're never measured, as John said with the racing league, and no one measures performance because it's how do you measure it? So they don't bother.
Numbers usually, and they fudge them.
People criticise Jolie Harrington, but as I had a conversation with somebody earlier this week, and the real spoofer in all this is also leaving post, and that's Rod Strait from Great
Yeah.
British Racing, because he's been in post a lot longer, and he's never produced anything whatsoever that was quantifiable in
No.
terms of measuring success or failure.
No,
No.
in fact, Great British Racing managed to produce a tweet that spoke up for diversity and inclusion in racing with the old flags and all that lot, but failed to mention anything about the D-Day. Bearing in mind, like Chris has highlighted throughout our sermon career, that most of our patrons that visit the sport and visit the tracks will be supportive of the armed forces, that what they did in the Second World War. But yet, Great British Racing thinks, no, we don't remember them, or we don't do anything positive towards that brigade.
It's kind of, they'll do lots of initiatives that are kind of on the periphery, but no one wants to attack the big issue because it's too difficult. They haven't got the expertise and it's hiding to nothing. So we'll have lots of kind of satellite initiatives, bouncy castle, LGBTQ awareness day, everything except the elephant in the room, which is if people can't get a bet on, the sport loses its source of funding. And nobody seems to really want to attack this head on, do they? They've just allowed themselves to be kind of pushed in the direction by interest groups, politicians, all these kind of, but nobody stood up for punters because the BHA don't like punters.
So what we're saying is that the BHA literally are like everyone's bitches, aren't they? They have no power now because whoever comes in
None
to
at all.
take on the role and sits there.
No. You say it's very easy to say they have no power. The power's there. They just choose not to wield.
Where's the power?
They're the regulatory body. They issue licenses. If you issue licenses, you can stop anybody playing if you want.
Issue licenses for what, though?
Jockeys, trainers,
Yeah, the jockey, yeah, but that's not going to change
Yeah.
the game, is it?
tracks that race under the rules of racing.
Right. So coming back to Samuel the Cat's question, right, on this. So what I'd do is to really piss off a lot of tracks, I'd demand straight away under licensing of your track that you have a minimum of 2 outriders your track, because that would cost them £1,000 a meeting. They'd hate that. And I'd say if we were the heads of the BHA, even though we didn't have the power to change things overnight, what you would do is rather than pander to these people and be agreeable, you'd get right under their fucking skin and you'd make sure that they would hate you like beyond belief. Because if you make things difficult for them, right, we want 2 outriders at your course. If you don't get them, you can't race. You can't put that meeting on. You make them jump through hoops because they're milking the media rights tip. The race courses are pocketing it all and not giving a fair amount of prize when you're back to trainers, to owners. And so what you do is then you start to squeeze the other way. You're not playing ball, so we're not going to play ball. So you use your licensing powers, John, right, to say, well, we want to see this, this, and this.
This is something I've said all along. And I think it's a really telling thing that there's been no industry bigwigs said they're glad to see the back of Jolie Harrington. They're all, oh, sorry to say a go and all this. If you are in that position and doing the job as racing is gagging for it to be done now, with racing being as in the shit as it is, if somebody went in there and did the job properly, several factions in racing would be highly delighted when you go.
It's a good point, isn't it?
What do you think of the take of some media personalities? They think she's been harshly done by him. She's been absolutely fucking terrible, John.
She's done nothing.
Nothing. Zero. The word that John used back on the show, careerist waffle bag, it couldn't be more accurate. That's where I feel the BHA need to change tack. But
Yeah.
I don't think they will. Is the slots chairman going? Suarez?
Yeah, he's going as well.
Is he going as well?
Yeah.
Well, good. Good riddance to bad rubbish.
what they're bringing in, though, isn't it?
Well, that's it. You're cheering for change, and then all of a sudden you probably get 3 times worse. Speaking of worse, Josh Appiafi heads the betting for the old Jockey Club role. And now, the thing is, with a Jockey Club role, this is a completely different role to the BHA because they're cash skin.
Yeah, they are.
Their model is about fleecing the punter. About going to Cheltenham, it's
Yeah.
£17 for an artisan burger. And if you come in this enclosure, well, we'll give you a prawn roll, sit there for the day for £85.
Yeah.
And that's what the Jockey Club model is. Sadly, Truesdale's seen this and he's thought, with the
Yeah.
affordability checks and
Yeah.
knocking punters out, it's an impossible job to actually achieve on their model. John, this is the time to sell the courses and paintings.
Massively so. I make no bones about it. The bloody lot of guys I was in charge.
The Dido Harding thing that we touched on the other week regarding the appointment of Dido Harding says to me, royally, that there's going to be a fire sale at some point, and it'll get broke to us like slowly, like, oh well, Kempton may have to go by the wayside. Something else might have to go by the wayside.
It'll be the usual tough decisions have to be made, etc. We're taking economically prudent courses of action, blah, 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 blah. But I can see that, can't you?
Yeah. I think personally, it needs somebody with serious business acumen at the Jockey Club. I genuinely don't think they're serious in their operations either. I don't think they want to make money. I think with the Dido Harding plan, I think there will be sell-offs.
That would have been right. Maybe 10 years ago, I think this was salvageable for someone with serious business acumen. But I think now we're at a stage where you need someone with serious business acumen who is also a right bastard. in all honesty, because it's beyond the stage of consensus now.
Yeah.
Whoever goes to the Jockey Club is going to have to work hand in hand with whoever's in charge at the BHA, and they're going to have to get bloody.
It's certainly a real problem for racing going forwards and a worrying time because despite affordability checks and wondering whether you get a bet on, this could go 2 ways. 10 years' time, the crystal ball. Who's viewing it? Who's got the crystal ball for this?
You only have to look at the way that government use racing and betting on racing now. Immediately, without any further delay, racing has to divorce itself from this funding model where it is entirely dependent on followers of the sport losing money.
Yeah.
It's immoral. Every decision that they make has shade thrown on it because of the benefit to them if punters are mugged.
Chris, it's a weird model because remember the timeshare model?
Yeah, John Palmer, yeah.
It was about, you can have an holiday and it's an investment. Your timeshare is an investment. And they sold it as that, and they sold it as like, this is just going to be awesome. How can you sell a product like racing? Chris Giles, for example, has put his horse up for sale. And I'm not saying that's the reason why he's backing out of the game. Might be business interests like waning and stuff like that and financial difficulties. I don't know. I don't want to speculate. But the fact that a big owner like him, but he did mention he backed his horses in a double at Sandown that both won a right few quid, and he had a right arse getting paid. I'm sorry, but that doesn't send a message to people, come racing because you're going to get paid and change your life around you. This is what racing should be selling.
How can the regulatory body be hand in hand with it?
I don't know. Beggars belief. How adverts are allowed to go out on racing channels saying that I stop at £10 and £10 enough for anybody to bet, and I back favourites, and no, I pick names, I pick outsiders, and the dumbing down of it. But then that's where you blame the BHA, because if you got clued up people in the BHA, I'd have a press officer daily reviewing these adverts of bookmakers, and I'd be making comments. The BHA denounces these adverts because how is that encouraging money into the sport?
You're right, but it goes back to what we said weeks ago. It's a Ponzi scheme. They want lots and lots and lots of very
of tenors.
Yeah, of people who aren't astute, who don't study up, but like every Ponzi scheme, eventually, when you run out of rubes to fleece, then the whole thing collapses. Ponzi schemes will work if you've got an infinite number of investors putting money in all the time. But when people start to stop, in the case of racing, or in the case of a Ponzi scheme, take the money out, that's when it collapses. They haven't worked that out. And they think they can make it up with bouncy castles, lots and lots of punters, and emphasising the fun aspects of a day out where betting is almost peripheral. And that's mad. But that's because they don't understand the sport. They really don't get it.
So the Jockey Club incumbent, really, if Dido Harding's going to sell up, you don't employ Dido Harding. You obviously want serious connections in the political world. Whoever's going to take the old Devin Truesdale role is just going to be another yes manager.
It doesn't bode well, not at all. Because, like I say, when these people go and everybody's sorry to see them go, that tells its own story. When the gross profits deal was first hatched years ago, I remember the BHA coming out and saying, well, that went really well. And if you've had a sit down with the bookmakers over the funding of the sport, you don't want to be coming out saying that went really well. You want to be coming out absolutely shattered, few teeth missing, feel like you've been through the ringer, because otherwise you haven't been trying.
The bookmakers don't need the BHA. That's why even flapping racing's been mentioned. That might have come after a meeting where the BHA have said this is acceptable. Then put the wires around saying, right, we'll just run our own racing under our own tracks. We own tracks. We'll do a deal with Arena.
The track record of the BHA suggests they would collapse at the first sign of tough negotiation.
100%. One of the pipe dreams for Samuel the Cat, right, was the Jockey Club. If you were like serious for racing, you could see what were happening here regarding Big Corp. Is this possible? You send the paintings to Sotheby's, Del Boy and Rodney Syndrome, get absolute zillions for your painting. You sell a few courses off, and you run your own racing model. You pocket the hundreds of millions you've earned from selling off what you've sold, and you've got a big war chest, and you then operate your own products under Jockey Club race courses, a world class product. You sell it to the world with great prize money. You offer your own tote system, exchange system, betting system away from Big Corp.
Yep.
You get the King of Saudi to say, right, can register here so people trust it because you'll get paid because it's registered in Saudi.
Yeah.
And then you go from there. What are then Big Corp going to do to that? Because then if the big courses join and you've got the big model, sod the Plumptons on the Monday, no one cares. All of a sudden then you've got the big model. Is that possible or is that a complete pipe dream?
Of course it's possible, and then you are the big club that everybody wants to join.
And they've got it. Jockey Club racecourses have got it. Their track, a potential product there. You need Ascot to come on board. I don't know if Ascot's his own entity. I don't know about it.
Queen owns it.
Well, yeah. If you can persuade the Royals then, it's say, right, let's do this.
Well, it's the best thing they could ever do for racing.
Yeah,
isn't it?
because it doesn't involve Big Corp. You're taking away the mass billions of pounds they're taking off ordinary folk. And I think that's the way racing can prosper without them. We don't need them. If someone had the vision in the Jockey Club to do that and think, fuck that, sell off some crown jewels, let's have a war chest and let's build a business model to produce a world-class product. Yes, less racing, but nobody's bothered about that as long as racing survives and attracts the world's best.
And let's be fair, you'd only need that float for your first 12 months.
Yeah, because then sponsorship comes in because the product's that good. And then everyone wants to be on board.
You're running your own tote, your own exchange, you're raking it.
Absolutely. And who's not playing? I'm playing. Even at 5% exchange, I'm playing. So I'm funding it. If you make the tote realistic, I'm playing. That's where we're at.
That's why it should be shorter than 100 to 1 to get the.
But you're not allowed to be visionary. You've got to be reactionary in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, reactionary is better than visionary.
100 times. Clearly.
It's what it's all about. I mean, look at the poor old bloke at Ascot when Luke Harvey interviewed him. And Luke Harvey put the mic in front of his face and he said to him, he says, "Are you having a good time, sir?" No, I'm not. He said, "Oh, why is that?" He says, "Well, I couldn't get a seat, couldn't get a drink. It's boiling."
Yeah, good. It's all shit. Fuck off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Best interview ever, that was the Royal Meeting. And speaking of the Royal Meeting, as we'll change subject, so Ascot may be watering now as the weather's change. It's now getting a bit warmer, and now we're talking about watering before the big meeting as the old rainfall hasn't come. This thing about ground, etc., I think me and you were rather disgusted at the Haydock withdrawals the other week. Is this why old Wesley Ward, Bingo, when he comes over here, just had as much success because they're chucking too much on?
It could be, couldn't it? If it's 5 furlongs, they're riding like 5.5. That's the end of bingo, isn't it? Really?
You'll be happy at that, though.
I'm always happy when he has a loser.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't stand the man. The fake tan, the false teeth, the fucking glasses. I can't stand it.
I found that Racing Post article pretty salty, to be honest. And I think the stats proved it. When he were like having loads of winners up to 2017, I think I looked to. He was like bouncing every year, weren't he? This Royal Meeting, it's the place to come. I've told all my owners, you've got to come here.
I compare him with that other fella
Yeah.
that you could back his 2-year-olds with impunity, and that was Mohamed El Zarouni. I think there was parallels.
No, it could be. It could be Jews, could be all sorts. But there was something that changed post 2017 because I don't think he's had a 2-year-old winner after 2017 because it were Campanelle, the other great horse he had, older horse, I can't think of the name. I don't think he's had a 2-year-old winner since 2017.
Well, when you look at size of some of them, you wouldn't think he's had a 2-year-old winner, really.
Acapulco.
Yeah. Going loco as well.
Yeah. Lang's looking forward to seeing Bingo next week at Ascot
Yeah.
with his 3 2-year-old runners, apparently.
I hope they're all last.
Yeah. Watering at Ascot potentially, which is quite surprising. So, have we any Ascot like early fans for listeners?
No, it's bollocks. I hope he gets called off, actually. I hope it
I've said that.
I hope he gets called off.
Only jokingly, but anyway.
Yeah. No, I'm serious, actually.
Without giving away anything to your sort of like where you know your bread and butter, where you need it to pay your like pay bills. Have you anything to steer anyone for Ascot?
My big problem at the moment, I've sent you this week's notes. And I've stated on the notes that I haven't listed all the tracker horses because the races at Ascot where I've got 10 trackers in.
You love that though,
Which
but you can then claim like you've had about 7 winners, haven't we?
they still haven't won yet. I can have 10 trackers and still draw a blank. No, what I need to do, I'll be starting tomorrow having a good sift through, seeing if I can get these down to 1 per race, which the way it's looking, I severely doubt that. At this particular stage, I wouldn't say I have anything I'm absolutely gagging to back. Not at Ascot at any rate.
Ascot as a whole is quite a difficult meeting. I know I've laughed about it, but chariot form is a big thing.
Well, massive. Yeah.
I know, like we all laugh about this, and people have said, "What are these guys absolutely off their heads?" Yes, but chariot form is huge because, as we know, when you get rail biases at certain tracks, and it has happened at say Brighton, Redcar, there's been other courses.
Folkestone.
They run the emergency vehicle under a certain rail, and they've only cottoned on in recent times saying, "No, you can't do that." Look on a golf course, and it's like US Open. Crowd are trampling down rough, and by 4th day, there ain't no rough. It's just flattened down shit, and it's like that. That's why you get certain bias. I also think that chariot form is quite big because if they're going on there and it's cutting the ground, particularly when it's cutting the ground, that's flattening the turf. The rails are getting fatter now, aren't they? They're fatter now.
Well, you get Sir Piers Ben Goff in there with King Charles and the old brass. You've got a fair bit of weight going.
Yeah, Harry Herbert, they're always chucking him in, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, he's 6
Yeah,
foot 7,
23
isn't
stone. All of a sudden, tracks are going in. When sun comes out, it bakes. They've opened up the ground and get on the tram lines. On the tram lines for chariot form. That's the big thing. For a tip this week, no, I ain't got one. I did have one for the King George handicap, but I think Thady got mixed up with his dad. I think his dad said to him, Thady, can you enter this in the King George? And Thady said, yes, Dad, I will. It was Theory of Tides. I was expecting it in the King George V handicap off a mark of 95.
With that pillock, you look at it in the King George case on Boxing Day.
Sadly, Thady must have put it in the King George V and Queen Elizabeth Diamonds. I would actually laugh if that was a genuine error, actually. You can believe it, and I would believe it. If someone said he meant to put it in the King George handicap next week off 95, and he's actually put it in the King George. But anyway, the subject. But it's about as far as I'm getting Ascot at the moment because I want to see what round is. And don't forget to listen to us next week. Things are happening in Bar Stewards World. Need to do a plug now. We do Bar Stewards Extra. It has gone up to £9, but we're more than worth it. We're absolutely different gear. The stuff you get on there is just different class. From several contributors, Adam Norman, Andy Richmond, John Lang, Jack Veach, Nick Davis, myself, Lorne, with these humongous articles now and again. There's lots and lots of fun on there to be had. And for £9 you can't go wrong. But we also do an Edge service, which is £39 a month. I'm sorry, but if anyone's beating us at 11 a.m., they are top dogs because we're doing about 17% on the year last year. Immense profit, 75 points profit from 425 odd point stake. Seriously, the level of information is top class. We do an early bird service. We're just starting that. If you can get on overnight, again, all worth looking at and joining. So join us on Barsters.
We do outside catering.
We might do soon. We might do fish and chips at this rate if affordability checks on its way. So, like, look, this is it. You know, people say, you just cash grabbing. No, we're not. Yeah, we are. But you're getting the real deal. You're getting the winners. You're getting the profit. And that's the thing. If we were fakeries, then you won't be getting that. And it's just a good community. It's a lot of fun. We give a lot of laughter, a lot of podcasts. And next week, of course, if you are a Patreon member, you get Monday Ascot preview for Tuesday, Wednesday. You get Wednesday Ascot preview for Thursday, Friday. And Friday Ascot, you get Saturday preview. More not to like. £9 a month. It's bollocks all. And will make you laugh to a degree as well, hopefully, as well as giving you more knowledge than you had before. Red line in friendship.
Yeah.
Odd question, isn't it?
Imagine you've had a friend for a long time.
I have to imagine that, but yeah, go on.
Right, good mate. And like, what's the red line for you?
Animal abuser or paedophile. Everything else is all right with me.
Well, yeah, animal
That's it.
abuser. And
Yeah.
we've talked about that earlier in the show, so it's a good thing. John?
Well, I think it depends to a degree on how long you've known them.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'd just met the Ginger Hitler now, I'd probably just walk away.
But you've known him since school.
The fact that we've been friends since we were about 8 means that he'd have to get into some seriously bad shit now for me to turn my back on him. So I do think there's a little element of how long you've got to know these people and how long you get conditioned to them. You can have some friends in life that are never a bother, can't you?
Yeah.
They never give you a moment's anxiety. They're always there for you, and it's absolutely wonderful. And then there's other friends who are nothing but a fucking headache, and you wonder why the hell you bother, and yet you do because they're a mate. Everybody's got the tipping point, haven't they? Like Chris said, paedophilia, animal abuse.
Yeah.
Watch Race Mog on GB News.
Yes, and enjoy it.
Yeah, anything like that, they've got to go, haven't they, really?
I don't really have red lines because I just judge every situation by what it is. And I've always gone by the ways of never burn bridges, right, in business. And there's a reason for this because there's always a time when it comes back where they get in touch again. I'm not going to name names, but there has been times in my business life when I've been a tipster and I've done whatever I'm doing where someone has come up to me and said, let's do this. I've said, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then they've sort of paid me my dues and then said, no, it's not working, and then done it. And I could have like been very upset and sort of said, what are you doing? I've said, okay. And then literally a year later, they've come back and I've earned a lot more besides. So my advice to anyone in anything is try not to burn bridges unless it's very serious. But the red line in friendship for me, I think it comes to character and going to the bar. She won't be listening to this podcast, but there's a lass that I knew once. This was quite funny. In terms of going to the bar and it's her round, there might be like six of us out. Get your rounds in. But what she'd do is mega crafty this. So she'd go at bar, help out with the drinks from the bar and fetch them from the bar. So when there's like 6 pints or a few cocktails, she'll help bring them back. So then you're on to 6th round or whatever. You're thinking, whose round is it next? You're all bollocks anyway. She's been helping. And you never think it's her round because you think, well, she's been fetching drinks back. She never got around. What a tactic. They're only me that noticed that. Never, ever got around.
Worth about, isn't it?
That's terrible, isn't it? God, yeah.
Awful.
Honestly, dreadful. It's like a war crime, isn't it, really?
It is. I'm Frank's.
I'll tell you something else. If you ever know a fella, whatever you do in life or buy something, he always says, you should have called me. I could have got you that £100 cheaper. And then when you do call him to try and get you some £100 cheaper, his mate, in quotes, is always on holiday in Spain. And life is full of those people. How much you give for that? Oh, 50 quid. I'll give 30 quid for mine. You've been well mugged off, mate.
You definitely need rid of people like that.
I used to work with a chap, agent, who told the most appalling lies. And what he used to do, what'd you do at the weekend, Bill? He says, went fishing, didn't I? So where'd you go? He said, went Miami. Now, bearing in mind, this was like a 2-day fucking weekend. He went to Miami and caught a blue marlin and flew home. And he said that with the straightest of faces and the most extraordinary lies that he told. And I don't know if it's part of his psyche or whether he thought people believed him, but the incredible lies he told. A blue marlin. And the geezer was about 70 years old at the time. Unreal.
Coming on to Blogger now.
Yes.
It's good though this week. It's funny. So Matthew Force called me a great question. He says, after Blogger confirmed his status as the ultimate jinx, what would you have him bet on to ensure the immediate stopping of it? Chris?
I would say I'd want him to bet against a cure for cancer being found in the next 12 months.
A nice, virtuous cure for cancer. Yeah. He could probably do that. Having said that, if you joined him, I mean, you should do Doctor Who because you can stop time. You can.
Oh, fuck. I'm the biggest bok there's ever been. There's no bigger bok on earth. I once, the guy bought a dog over from Ireland. He spent a load of money breeding it, looking after it. It was a schooling trial, a sales trial at Norton Keynes. And he said, look, I've got to take a call. Can you, lead the dog in and load him in the trap? So I did. But I've never loaded a dog in the trap. The dog clearly hadn't been in the trap. So I shoved it in, didn't do it very well. And it came out, snapped its fucking leg off. And he said to me, you are one fucking bok, you cunt. And that was it. And I never spoke to him again. So, yeah. I am unlucky.
There's some £7 penalties. John, we know plenty of £7 penalties, don't we? If you found one and you thought, fucking hell, I can't even share this with Edge. I can't put it on pastures because I need this to pay fucking bills, right? You know people who you wouldn't tell, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Why is that though? Why is that when you tell certain people?
Because it's a not bait as well. You kick yourself up the ass so hard because you wouldn't blame your form studio, the way you've come out with that selection. The blame would be entirely on sharing it with the bok.
Indeed. I know. I've even said it last month myself. I've thought, why have I told him that?
Every Edge selection that's copped at prices corresponds exactly with those I haven't bet. And that's, I have not bet any of those winners, like the ones at prices. And the only time I step forward is when they get chinned. Because scared money never wins, does it?
No.
The psychology of it is it's frightened to make a move now because I can't afford to lose. So when you do, what's sod's law say? It's going to lose, isn't it? But when you're flying, you got a few quid, you can throw it around and they win, don't they? And it happens time after time. And I'd never understood it, why that happens.
Well, here we go, listeners. I'm going to give some keys advice here. It really goes against the fucking grain of every single gambling safety advice ever. Right? If you're listening to this and you're thinking, right, how do I get a few quid in odd? How do I get going? My advice is this. If you've got the balls and the strength to do it, save up your cash, wait till you've got at least 200 or 300 in kitty, maybe more, whatever you can save it up and wait for the right opportunity and then slam it on 2-3 to 1. Then you've got a grand, haven't you? What's point in fucking about in tenors and 20s when you got 300 quid to build from? If you're on the bottom rung and you can't get going, and it's like fucking hell. And yeah, I've had 30 quid on this 11 to 4 shot. It's got beat at short head. You get needle, and then you have 20 quid on them, 50 quid, and you just fritter it away. Fuck it.
That is absolutely the right philosophy. And the more you mention that, the more I agree with it. Because if you've got a small pot and you're a small player, you can get that pot back up again, no problem. Whereas if you've got a massive pot, then you're not going to put the whole lot on. You're going to sort of try and bet sort of incrementally. But if you've got a pot together and, I don't know, 200 quid or whatever you saved up for, and you push it over the line and it gets fucked, well, it's not going to take you that long relative to get it together, relatively huge pot.
Yeah.
That's my advice to anyone on the lower rungs that are like trying to get going and thinking, fucking hell, fuck your tenors and your 20s.
We should get that put on one of our mugs, shouldn't we? Don't fuck about.
Exactly. And this is the exact opposite message that big books are sending. And why are they sending that? They don't want it. They don't want you having 200 win 600 on a 3 to 1 put that goes off 6 to 4, pisses up. It's like, no, that's no good to them. They want £10 on, and then they want you to go on slots, and they give you bonuses for going on slots.
Yeah, they want you to put a tenner on and try to find 5 winners for a fucking actor.
But it's a great question from Matthew Forth in terms of like, what would you have stopped? I wish there were markets on the gambling commission and disbanding of it on the other end. That's the threat to us all.
The logic is, isn't it? Let's have your 200 quid on, I don't know, 7 to 2 chance. Straight away now, you've got an extra £700. So that small pot becomes a smallish pot, doesn't it? So you can do more with that. So you can either go back to betting incrementally or you can try and roll it up again. But that's the only way to build it up, I think. Because ultimately, if you're betting incrementally with a 200 quid pot, yeah, at the end of the year, well, you're going to get, I don't know, a few hundred quid extra, maybe if you're lucky, if you mess around. But the only way to do it is to push the chips over the line. That's really hard to do, isn't it? Psychologically, because you think, should I make my move today? Should I? Oh, don't know. But all I can say is, on the few times I've done it and it's been successful, I would say you kind of know when you're doing it right. You're not forcing it. You think, I absolutely have to bet this tomorrow. Win, lose or draw. You're almost compelled to do it. And if you sit there and think about it, that's not the right bet to have.
Just wait for the right one and go bang.
Yeah.
Because it's the right bet anyway. It will be the right bet when you wait and do that.
Yeah, totally.
There's plenty of them. You just have to wait. So going on to Blogger's loss on the football, said Luke, which everyone had a chuckle at. But look, we've all had that. I mean, Jesus Christ. I'm not playing Schadenfreude, even though Blogger's blocked us. What's the worst bad beat you've ever had, says Luke, in terms of that? I'll start us off. I can remember a day, I can't remember names. I'm really shit with names of horses. But there was 3 101s on the bound side on a day that got chinned.
Yeah.
For decent money, which if you add up, it's 100 to 100 to 100 to 1, which is 1,000,000 to 1 on that happening. And I managed to do it. But I've never won the lottery, never close to winning the lottery or any kind of massive win.
I was close once. Bloke next door won it. So, you know, old joke that, isn't it? Yeah, nearly won a lot. The bloke next door won it.
Being several of the things. One of the worst I can remember that like broke my heart was I was really struggling at a time. I think about 8 years ago, might be 8, 9 years ago. A Sheffield Wednesday fan, me and the producer were going to a game, and the 12:30 at Kelso was off, and I was so strong on one. It was like 13 to 2, and I made it about 9 to 4. I thought this is an incredible bet.
This is it.
I had 2,000 to win 13. I didn't lay out because I was getting changed and everything, to get out of the house. So I didn't even think about putting a layout. And I'm just watching the big screen as we're leaving, saying, right, we've got to leave in a minute. This is the latest time we can leave. It's 2 lengths clear coming to the last, drawing clear.
Oh dear, yes.
Fell at the last.
Yeah, fucking hell.
You know when people boom and do slips and say, oh, we win and shit? It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. There's lots of shit goes on. But yeah, that's one of them.
I mean, I've had numerous occasions like that where something's going bounding clear and falls at the last or swerves near the finish line and gets nutted. But, you know, I don't bet or very, very rarely bet football because time and time again, I've seen it through the little records I keep, statistically probably unfathomable numbers of occasions where my team's been like 3-0 up with 10 minutes to go, and you're looking at the cash out, you think, fucking bollocks, why should I give Betfair £2? And then, you know, go away and do something, and it's 3-3 with a 99th minute equaliser. And, you know, and I do sympathise with Blog. I mean, I'm not Schadenfreude because it's horrible, but fucking football does me all the time, and I just can't get that sport right. And, you know, every time, it's normally the last leg of an acca where something's clear and then they equalise, and you think, it just happens to me too often. So, horses wise, so many occasions been nutted on the line when, you know, something crazy's happens, but it's horrible. And I do feel sorry for him. We're not fans of him, but like, that was fucking cruel, wasn't it? I mean, you think, oh, Christ, that was one of the bad beats ever, I think, on football.
Yeah. John?
I was sat there one Saturday night and the phone rang, and it was my mother. And she said, you better come over, I think I won the lottery. So, knowing what a blithering idiot my mother was, I thought I'd better go over and say what the situation is here. I went over and I said, well, I didn't watch the lottery or anything like that. Give us your ticket. I said, right, what were the numbers? And she starts reading them off. And sure enough, she's got 5 out of the 6 on the fucking lottery. I said, fucking hell, you've done all right there. I said, you got 5 out of 6. I said, you might get £1,000 or something for that, because it was when not so long after it had started. She said, well, I was only going off birthday numbers. I said, oh, right. Anyway, I said, what was last number? She said, oh, number 9. She said, I ran out after 5. I put 49 in top number because I can only think of 5 birthdays. So how the fucking hell she didn't get a pillow put over her head that night from her one son, whose birthday is the 9th of October.
Fucking hell.
Fucking.
That's horrendous.
Whose birthday was the day before my father's, the 10th of October, which she had put in.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. I can't echo that myself, but thinking my outlaw and an outlaw that had a very large farm in Australia, right? Lots of kind of business interests, etc. And he was divorcing this woman who was basically fleecing him. And he wasn't very well at the time. And my aunt said to him, "You've been taking the cleaners." He said, "I'm not very well. I don't think I've got too long left." He said, "But I've got a load of money." He said, like several million quid in pounds sterling. He said, "But I got it in safe deposit boxes all around various towns in Australia, never untraceable. It's there." And he said, like, I want you to manage this for me and make sure that nobody gets their fucking hands on it. And he said, kind of a assignment letter saying that the contents of these are my aunt's brother, my dad, blah, blah, blah. So she said, "Right, okay, what are the details?" He said, "Listen," he said, "come back tomorrow morning." He said, "We'll sit down, we'll have a coffee, go through it all." And he said, "I'll tell you the key numbers, I'll give you the keys, the fucking lot." He said, "But I've got them all buried around the farm." Fuck me, she turns up the following morning, he's died overnight of a fucking heart attack. So they've had a look round the farm, they said digging around, and they still to this day cannot find these keys and these safe deposit boxes. And he wasn't mad, he wasn't sort of losing his marbles, but somewhere in Australia there's this unclaimed safety deposit boxes with a load of money, because he's a very successful man and he was a very sort of crafty fella. But yeah, overnight he dropped fucking dead. There you go. How about
There
that?
you go. Pablo Escobar searchers, treasure hunters. Get going.
I think it is. Yeah.
Right, final question to finish. Euro 24 headbands.
Yeah.
Right, it's Euro 24 in it, of course. So we've got to have a football question. I thought about this. Footballers that wear headbands. Tell me one, like, international that's not a cunt.
Ooh, that wears a headband who isn't a cunt.
I'm going through Modric, Ginola, Grealish.
Bell ends, all of them, yeah.
Right, what is it about headbands? Like, like footballer wears a headband. They're going to dive. They're going to foul. They're going to be complete bollockheads, aren't they? I mean, what is it with headbands, John? I mean, you've got to notice.
The last non-cunt headband I noticed was John McEnroe.
Yeah.
Bjorn Borg was pioneered it, I think, didn't they?
But that's rogue sport. Like footballers that wear headbands, I'm always wary. Because they're always one in the rest face. They're always one in the...
Who was that Brighton fucker that pioneered it? Steve Foster, was it?
Yeah, that was just to make sweat in his eyes, because like he was a big fat lad, weren't he?
You want Terry Butcher, don't you? Blood-soaked shirt hanging around your head. That's good.
Anyway, to finish, because we can't add up to that. But anyway, tell me, listeners, give me a non-twat that didn't wear an headband in a big European championship. I'm not on about League One, League Two. You Leyton Orient fans and Milton Keynes fans, don't at me. It's got to be a big team. Tell me one that wears an headband that's a nice, fair person. They're not. They're absolute idiots. The headband goes to the head. Whatever it is, when they wear a headband, that's it.
Yeah.
And on that note, we're going to finish. So I hope you enjoyed the show. That's all from me, John and Chris. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.